All right, welcome back, everyone. We're going to take some time here to go over the playoff situation and then get into last week's games like we did last week. Four teams fighting for the last two playoff spots, and we're going to start off at the top here with Brittany, who's the most likely to make it in. If she wins, she's in, obviously. But if she loses and Crikey and Jeff both win, with Jeff also outscoring her by 20 points, then she'll get booted. Crikey are also in if they win, but if they lose and Ryan or Jeff win, they're most likely eliminated. Unless Ryan wins, Jeff loses, and Crikey outscore Ryan by 55 points while losing, which is very unlikely. Next up, we have Jeff at the 7th seed, looking in at the top 6 while having the third highest points scored this season. He needs to win, obviously, and Crikey lose. But if Crikey wins, he needs Brittany to lose and outscore her by 20 to get in. And then last up, we have Ryan, who just needs Jeff and Crikey to lose. And that doesn't seem that crazy. And you might be wondering why he's only given a 6% playoff chance. But that's because Jeff and Crikey played Tim and Kelsey respectively in this last week, who have pretty much been free wins all season. So good luck, Ryan. As for the 4 through 6 seeds, a lot can change there, so we're not going to get into the details. Instead, let's take a look at last week's games. Second week in a row, we start off with the Stomp of the Week. But hey, it's not Kelsey this time. I am a bit sad I didn't get to reuse the graphic, but the life support of Brian's playoff run has officially lost power as Mahomes and Zeke let him down one last time and finish him off. As for me, is this what it feels like to have running backs? My 3 running backs combined for 60 points, and this RB graveyard might be showing some signs of life. However, most likely very short-lived as Sony Michel and Javonte Williams had the backfields to themselves due to some short-term injuries. All I need is for Paul to beat Skip in the last week of the season, and for me to outscore Skip by 85 points to get the 1 seed. Sounds easy enough. Next up, we have a train wreck of a matchup that is just so ugly we all want to stop watching, but we can't take our eyes away from it. Tim starting a punter that hasn't been in the NFL for 2 weeks. Kelsey using her illegal bench spot and still starting 2 running backs that combined for 2.6 points. These 2 powerhouses combined for 156 points, barely outscoring Ryan by 4. Brings me back to week 1 of Commissioner's Corner where I said it's not looking too hopeful for Tim's team. And if only I'd have known how much of an understatement that would turn out to be. Also, a fun fact about Kelsey's 3-win season. She got off to a hot start in week 1 with a win, but since then her only 2 other victories have come against Tim. These 2 teams have managed just a single win each against the rest of the league. This loss solidifies Tim in the last place, but if only we had some sort of punishment to make that actually mean something. Now, finally, some playoff relevant football. I thought Zach was going to get the comeback here on Monday Night Football, but Mother Nature and 50-mile-per-hour winds had other ideas and severely limited the offensive output of his 2 Bills players and leaving him 10 points short, which eliminates him from the playoffs. Crikey and their losing streak and did indeed got her done. I'm not exactly sure of the grammar usage of that or how to use it in a sentence, but what I'm trying to say is that Dallas Goedert put him on his back, and now they just sit a single win against Kelsey away from making the playoffs. Round 1 of the irrelevant Paul versus Skip doubleheader goes to Skip. Paul made it a close race, but a goose egg from Boston Scott left him wanting just a little bit more. Both of these teams should have the 1 seed pretty much locked up. Another huge playoff matchup, Ryan doing his best to add chaos into the last week of the season by laying the smackdown on Jeff. Everyone seems to do their best when they get matched up against Jeff, as he has the most points against by 60 compared to the next closest person. And Ryan didn't even have his 2 starting running backs and still managed the high score of the week here. He's holding on to hope, but most likely this victory is just going to do enough to take Jeff out with him. And then last up, we have round 1 of the much more relevant Brittany versus Chase matchup, as Brittany gets herself into a good position for the playoffs here with a win over Chase. a pretty average showing from her team, still getting carried for the most part by RB2 and RB4 Austin Eckler and Leonard Fournette. Chase's team just a bit too heavy to be carried by RB1 Jonathan Taylor, but he's still locked into the playoffs and has the inside track for the 4 seed. However, round 2 of this matchup will do a lot to see who gets the 4 and 5 seed, and depending on how that turns out, we could be looking at a triple header in the first round of the playoffs between these two if they stay in the 4 and 5 seed. Well, that's it for this week's matchups. Next week, Kelsey and Tim, as I stated earlier, have a chance to add some relevance to their sad and pathetic seasons by playing big time spoilers. Let's see if they can pull it off in next week's Commissioner's Corner.